The powerful American naval force has just issued an explosive warning. The pressure from the United States against Iran entered a decisive phase this Friday, April 24, 2026. The Pentagon confirmed that the seized Iranian vessels, Majestic X and Tiffany, remain under American custody along with their crews. According to General Dan Kane, United States forces used rotary wing aircraft to reach the ship. They boarded, took control of the bridge, and began to control the vessel. And now, this operation is taking on a much larger scale because Washington is not just targeting isolated ships. It's hitting the network that supports the oil, the money, and the influence of the Iranian regime. And this is where the warning about a new Iranian Revolution 2.0 comes in. When the oil stops, the money dries up. When the money dries up, loyalty starts to crack, and when loyalty cracks, within a closed regime, the empire of the supreme leader stops seeming untouchable and starts to crumble from within. I'm going to tell you all about this, but right now you'll want to be subscribed to the channel to stay well informed. Real-time information with the highest standards of journalistic credibility. Milson Alves, here's what happened. The blockade started on April 13, but now it's growing. The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, said that the blockade is becoming global. Reuters reported that, according to Hegseth, no one sails from the Strait of Hormuz to anywhere in the world without the permission of the United States Navy. Duncan also stated that 34 ships have already been forced to return since the beginning of the operation, and that Washington is prepared to intercept vessels going to Iran or leaving Iranian areas. It's an attempt to break the regime's cash flow. Oil is the main source of money. It's through it that the government pays for its structures, supports its internal machinery, finances allies, and keeps the Revolutionary Guard moving. And that's where the idea of an Iranian Revolution 2.0 starts to gain traction in the news that's circulating. Not because a revolution is born overnight, but because the regime starts to face signs similar to those that have already brought down powers before. Tight economy, divided elite, internal security under pressure, and a population tired of paying the price. In 1978, before the fall of the Shah, the oil sector collapsed due to strikes and stoppages. When the oil stopped, the money stopped. When the money stopped, loyalty within the system began to fail. Within a few weeks, the structure that seemed solid lost its support. Now the situation is not a copy of that period, but the similarity worries Tehran. History doesn't have to repeat itself, it's enough to scare and warn. Today's Iran also depends on and also faces a crisis of trust. It also has to have and maintain a resulting security apparatus. And now, the point is that the United States is attacking precisely the route that brings money into the system. The regime's problem is, it's simple to understand an authoritarian government can survive for a long time with fear, propaganda, and repression. But it needs to pay soldiers, agents, civil servants, militias, operators, allies, and companies that keep the system running. When that money starts to run out, the question changes. It's no longer just about whether the regime can stand up to Washington. The question becomes whether the regime can keep its own base obedient. Trump recognized that and attacked directly. According to Axios, the President of the United States gave a short window for the Iranian factions to organize themselves and present a coherent response. The report says that Washington sees a split between civilian and military negotiators linked to the Revolutionary Guard, with doubts even about who actually has the authority to say yes to a deal. The American official stated that Trump would be willing to give only 3 to 5 more days for Iran to resolve this internal confusion. Tehran tried to respond with a message of unity. Iranian authorities stated that there are no radicals or moderates, only Iranians and revolutionaries, all obedient to the supreme leader. But that statement has a problem. It tries to deny exactly what the world has already noticed. When a regime needs to loudly reaffirm unity, it's because division has already become a political threat. Meanwhile, the blockade keeps tightening. The shadow fleet, which once served as an escape route, has become a direct target. Vessels often change flags, hide routes, turn off trackers, and use intermediary companies to sell sanctioned oil. The White House has also increased economic pressure on intermediary buyers. The Associated Press reported that the Trump administration imposed sanctions on a major refinery based in China and about 40 shipping companies and tankers involved in transporting Iranian oil, to undermine Tehran's main source of revenue and isolate companies that help Iran move its oil. The Treasury Department stated that it will continue tightening the network of intermediary ships and buyers used by the regime. This move hits a sensitive point: China. For a long time, Iran tried to sell the idea that it had strong enough allies to withstand American pressure. But Beijing also needs to protect its own economy. Xi Jinping declared that the Strait of Hormuz must remain open for normal passage, because this is in the interest of the nations in the region and the international community. The statement is bad news for Tehran. China may buy Iranian oil, may criticize sanctions, and may support a diplomatic solution, but it does not want to see Hormuz closed and does not seem willing to sacrifice its energy security because of the Iranian regime. This Chinese position further weakens the rhetoric of resistance. Iran depends on selling oil. China depends on buying energy from various Gulf nations. Beijing is not going to put all that flow at risk just to save Tehran. The math is simple. China looks after its own supply, its refineries, its trade, and its internal stability. Iran looks after its political survival. These interests are not the same. The strength of the dollar also complicates life for Iranians. Bloomberg reported, based on SWIFT data, that the dollar's share in international transactions rose to a record 51.1% in March, up from 49.2% the previous month. This shows that, amid the crisis, the dollar remains at the center of global transactions. For Iran, this is a problem because oil is not just used to generate revenue. It's used to obtain hard currency, pay for imports, and keep the basics running. Without hard currency, Tehran becomes more vulnerable. The regime can print its own currency, but that doesn't buy grain, parts, technology, and products on the international market with the same purchasing power. Other nations want dollars, euros, or globally accepted currencies. And if oil exports are blocked, Iran loses the very means of getting that money. The crisis stops being propaganda and turns into a real cost. In the end, the narrative of total control by the supreme leader is falling apart. The Majestic X has become more than just a seized oil tanker. It became a sign that the United States is willing to go after Iranian money wherever it is. And now Iran faces a simple and dangerous question. How long can the empire stand when the money that sustains its loyalty starts to disappear? Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves community.